Hey, how's it going, everybody? I am Magnum Martel, and I think it's high time that I reviewed The Outer Worlds. This game's been out for a couple of days now, and I've put about 20 hours into it, so I think I'm finally ready to review it completely. So let me start off by saying I am enjoying this game. I am thoroughly enjoying this game, but it is certainly not as perfect as everyone is making it out to be, and I'm about to levy some serious criticism toward the game about a few things. So, if you can't go into this knowing that I'm about to criticize this game's obvious flaws, then I suggest you click away right now, because I'm going to give you an honest review about what I really think about this game. Let me start off by saying I know that we are in the middle of the honeymoon phase, that point in time where the game has only been out for a couple of days, maybe a week. Everybody still wants the game to be perfect and simply doesn't want to accept any of its flaws. I also know that we are still in that point in time where everyone sees this game as their way to fuck off for Bethesda. I won't deny Bethesda has done nothing but screw up left and right since last year. There's no denying that absolute fact. Bethesda has ruined its reputation, and for good reason, but I feel like everyone wants this game to succeed just to piss them off, just to get back at them for making a terrible game and ruining an amazing franchise. I can understand that. This game was even advertised as being by the original creators of Fallout, just as a jab at Bethesda for ruining Fallout with their incompetence. I mean, we're at the point right now where I've already spoken some of my criticisms outwardly a few times in a few different ways on different outlets, and I actually had someone ask me how much I got paid to shit on this game by Bethesda. That is how unwilling people are right now to accept any criticism. I wasn't even shitting on the game. I was actually giving criticisms that you're going to hear in this video, with the admission that I'm still enjoying the game. I would never take any corporation's dirty money just to give their product a good review if I don't like it. I don't care how much the entire world likes a game. If I don't like it, or I have a problem with it, or I see a flaw in it, I'll point that flaw out and say, hey, this is a thing, this is my opinion. It doesn't mean that I hate the product or the company, it just means that you can't bribe me or pay me off to give you a good review. But okay, I think I've made my point quite clear. Let's get into the review, and I feel like I should start off with the story. The story is your very basic story. In fact, the elements of the story don't even remotely try to be subtle after the beginning. The story starts with a professor going to a colony ship called the Hope and looking for someone to uncriogenic freeze. This colony ship was headed to the place that the game takes place, the Outer Worlds, the colony where currently corporations control everything and rule over everyone's lives. He goes in, you customize your character, your appearance, your stats, your starting, all that happy horse shit that every RPG starts with. Then he gets attacked by the authorities, and he decides to go with you because you're who he's currently looking at. He unfreezes you, he gives you a little bit of exposition about what you're supposed to be doing, about fighting the corporations and waking up the rest of the colonists, and that he needs your help to do it, and all that happy stuff. Then he drops you down to the first planet you'll actually get to play on, and the game actually begins. The game is a little bit subtle at first, having you drop in, giving you a little bit of exposition, having you learn your way around, teaching the basics. You fight a couple of bandits and marauders and a couple of wildlife characters, nothing too special. From there, it's about finding a way to get off of the planet. So, without going too much into spoilers, you find out that you need some kind of power regulator to get off of the planet and power the ship that you have now, and you head to your first town called Edgewater. It is at this point that I can just say definitively that the story loses any sense of subtlety completely. The story stops trying to be on the nose so much as it ramps off of the nose, does a double backflip, sticks the landing, turns around and gives you a Mike Tyson-style hook to the jaw. The story is very basic in its nature, and I can honestly say, with me sitting at the closing hours, not a single reveal has actually come to surprise me. Using very basic deduction skills, you can essentially predict the majority of the events and their outcomes, with the exception of the ones where you are given choices to make. In that first town, you'll meet a guy right outside that you can either talk to him or not. It's up to you. He's a gravedigger. He tells you a little bit about his job, a little bit about the town, and a little bit about the basic elements of the world you're now living in. A little bit of plot stuff goes on, and you essentially get approached by the person who runs the town, who works for the corporations, and he gives you the opportunity and the option to either convince the people that deserted to come back, or he asks you to outright shut off their power so that they come back because they have no other choice. Like I said, in that first town, the game loses any and all sense of subtlety, and it basically outright tells you that, yeah, big corporations are big, bad, and evil, and they're screwing over the people that work for them. In fact, it didn't occur to me until writing and beginning to record this review that the story quite simply plays out like a short story written by a guy who's worked in an office his entire life and hates his job, his boss, and everyone in charge. But that about wraps it up for the story. It's nothing special or unique. It's nothing we haven't seen 100 times before. Like I said, it's not even remotely subtle. There is more to be said. There is a larger discussion to be had, but that's neither here nor there, and that's for another time. Let's move on to gameplay. A point about this game's advertising. This game was technically advertised as a spiritual successor to Fallout, and gameplay-wise, the only similarity to Fallout is the stats that you increase with each level increase that affect your ability to lockpick, hack, use guns, etc., etc. Your perception, your strength, all of the stats that you see in most RPGs that are technically core to the Fallout experience are in this game, albeit a much watered-down version of them. That is where the similarity to Fallout stops dead in its tracks and ceases to exist. This game, gameplay-wise, is not like Fallout. Not at all. Not in the slightest, and everybody seems to be saying that it is exactly like Fallout. It is not. Gameplay-wise, it's actually closer to a mixture between Borderlands and BioShock Infinite, I would say, because the gunplay and the shooting feel like BioShock. The HUD feels like BioShock, and the humor feels very Borderlands. Overall, I'd say the gameplay is enjoyable at the best. I mean, I really don't like the inventory system or the way you loot bodies like you're seeing here on screen, but it's something that I can simply tolerate because it's of no consequence. I just wish it was closer to the Fallout system where you actually open it and you get a menu. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people prefer this system. There's nothing wrong with this system. That's just what I think about it personally. Overall, I'd say the gameplay, the gunplay-wise especially, it's alright. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing unique or special. It's nothing we haven't seen. You stand there and you shoot a gun. Most of the guns feel relatively, if not exactly the same, with absolutely no change whatsoever. Your assault rifles and your sniper rifles feel the same, with the exception of semi-auto and full auto. Your handguns all feel exactly the same. Your melee weapons all feel exactly the same, except for maybe the weight and the swing. That's really about it. I'd say it's a mediocre mechanic system at best, and I'm going to be honest with you, gunfights get incredibly boring very fast. That's actually why I bumped up the difficulty a little bit to see if it changed. Bumping things up to hard mode made a little bit of a difference, but not too much. At the current time of my current playthrough, where I'm near the end of the story already, I'm kind of at the point right now where on hard mode, because of the way my stats are, I can essentially stand there and just let the enemy shoot me, only occasionally ducking behind cover so that I don't die, long enough to puff a heal and then pop right back out and shooting. I'm at the point where I can stand almost absolutely still. The enemies just stand there and take your bullets. They don't really have a lot of tactical thinking to them. The AI is kind of broken. Your companions will have a bad habit of charging up into the enemy or getting right in front of you. You can change the way your companions play, such as you can set them to stay further back, only work range. You can set them passive, aggressive, things like that. Good companion system. I actually like that. I like what they did there. I just wish that my companions would actually listen instead of just, oh, there's a gunfight. Because you have me set to aggressive, I'm going to pull out my sword and run at the enemy and stand directly in front of you when you're trying to shoot at them. Or if I have my gun, I'm just going to get right up in their face, kind of thing. The AI, when you're fighting against it, they more or less imply the same tactic, actually. It's probably the most Fallout thing about the gameplay is that the AI has no tactical thinking or self-preservation on normal and hard mode. They just kind of pull out a melee weapon and run right at you, or they kind of stand in a corner and shoot at you, occasionally using cover, maybe. I will say when they do use cover, it gets really annoying really fast because they have that kind of problem that a lot of AIs seem to have these days, where they stay behind cover and they don't really peek out to try and shoot you. So you're going to have to clear out everyone who is and then walk over there and go get them because they just keep hiding. It gets annoying and it really doesn't bring much to the gameplay at all. It actually makes it kind of irritating to walk into gunfights. I'm at the point where I find myself just trying to avoid them because they're boring. The gameplay and the gunplay was fun for the first hour, hour and a half, but after that, it quickly fell off and became mediocre at best and outright boring at worst. with the exception of a few moments where I've actually got my hands on an enemy that was unique or a weapon that was unique that felt different to use, there hasn't been much variety in my entire playthrough thus far. And when it comes to weapons, I can say the unique weapons don't really have anything different about them than their regular versions. They're just slightly stronger, they have a name, and maybe they have a couple of upgrades on them. Difficulty-wise, I do want to say, I started the game on normal difficulty, as you'll see in my Let's Play, but at one point, just to test and see after that episode if things would be different, because I was having way too easy of a time. The first hour or so, I might have had a few struggles, but after that, I got to a point where I was essentially mowing through enemies within 1 or 2 magazines tops. And the gameplay you're seeing right now is actually on hard mode. If you want more of a challenge and you want a survival style experience, you can bump the difficulty up to Supernova, where you have to deal with food and sleep and water, and your companions can actually die outright. I won't play it on that difficulty because I just don't care enough about a challenge. I just want the gameplay to be fun, and I never find that kind of gameplay fun. It's fine for different types of games, but I never used it in Fallout, and I'm sure as hell not going to use it here. But if you enjoy that kind of thing, I recommend giving it a try. It might mix up the game enough to make it actually fun, because right now, combat-wise, exploration-wise, I can say I'm incredibly bored. Which brings us to exploration and freedom. The world isn't completely open world, like I originally thought it was going to be. I was actually wrong, and I missed some of the information about that. The game is actually multiple open environments that are small in scale and set to sections on each planet. Sort of like Dragon Age Inquisition had, only they are much, much smaller. Exploration-wise, there's not really much to see. You can go out, you can wander the world, you can fight the wildlife and the bandits, you'll go to a couple of places, but there's not really much to look at, much to see, nothing to really discover that the story or side quest won't take you to. There's really nothing special out there. The environments are very pretty, they're very colorful, but outside of that, there's not much. And the world feels incredibly dead. The world does not feel alive at all. The people you talk to are kind of dead-eyed. They just kind of stand there with this blank stare and expression. Very minimal changes. The character with the most development right now is the first companion you get. And she continues to get it throughout the majority of the game, but outside of that, nobody really changes too much. Everybody's dialogue is kind of dead and monotone, and there's nothing really going on in the world or in any of the towns outside of quests that you can uptake. And it makes the world feel really dull and lonely and boring. It certainly doesn't feel as alive as Fallout New Vegas did, and since this game is supposed to be a spiritual successor from the original creators, I expected better. And I've even had others agree with me that the world feels dead and dull and like there's nothing really going on. In fact, that's the only criticism I've levied toward the game that I've had anyone openly agree with. Gameplay mechanics-wise, there's a couple of problems with opening doors where you will constantly pull out your gun. You can't take helmets back from companions when you give them to them. You can't completely unequip your weapons. You can only have 4 weapons equipped at a time. Small, little things like that in some ways are irritating and hinder the experience, but otherwise don't really make much difference at all. I went into the Outer Worlds not expecting much. I was not hyped for this game. Even its initial drops did not impress me. And having played it now myself, I can honestly say that I'm pleasantly surprised. I do enjoy the game. It is a decent game. It's not groundbreaking, it's not special, it's not unique, but it is just good old-fashioned single-player RPG fun. And if you like those kind of games, I recommend picking up The Outer Worlds or at least looking at it. Don't make the mistake I did and go into it expecting a Fallout-esque single-player open-world experience with an amazing story and fun characters and great gameplay. Don't go into it like I did like that, because you will walk away mostly disappointed. My biggest complaint about the game is that you're stuck in first person. I absolutely detest first person, especially in single-player RPGs. That's a personal preference that I know the vast majority disagree with. I just wish I could play in third person, because I feel like it would make the game infinitely more enjoyable. I would recommend when it comes to The Outer Worlds, pick it up on sale. Or if you're an Xbox Game Pass holder like I am, which is how I'm playing the game, play it through that, but I certainly would not pay $60 for this game. I cannot in good conscience, as someone who likes single-player open-world RPGs, who likes Obsidian Entertainment, who is still angry at Bethesda for mucking up the Fallout series, recommend that anyone pay the full $60 for this game. It's simply not worth it. I am just as tired as everyone else is of mediocre games made by greedy companies screwing us over and not being worth full price. I want this game to succeed and I want Obsidian to do well, but I can honestly say it's just not worth $60. And that is why I recommend wait until this game's price drops or it goes on sale for a $30, $40 tops. Then it will absolutely be worth picking up. But that's just my opinion on The Outer Worlds. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I've helped you decide whether or not you wanted to pick up this game. And thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.